Good morning, good afternoon, good evening or good night, wherever you are in whatever part of the world you happen to be. I'd like to introduce you to Kevin Cohen. He's a successful entrepreneur who's previously built successful bricks and mortar businesses. He started with a single pizza store in Colorado and built it up to a chain of 5 using online marketing strategies. And since then, he's turned all of his attention to becoming an online marketing and sales optimization guru. We're very proud to have him as part of the NearMe family. So for those of you who are new to online marketing tactics, this is going to be a great learning session. And for those of you who are already doing it, well, we hope that you can add your own voice of experience during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the reins to Kevin, and he will get it going. So let's just make sure that he's not on mute, which he is right now. And so you're unmuted, and the floor is yours, Kevin.
Well, thanks, Adam. I really appreciate you having me here today. First off, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you can hear me, let's start with, if you can't hear me, please throw a question in the chat bar, and we can troubleshoot before I go too deep. All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen and bring up our presentation for today. Just one second. And Adam, are people seeing my screen at this point?
Not just yet. So if you just want to hit there we go. That's coming up now.
Perfect. Okay. So today we're going to talk about how to validate your marketplace. And we're going to walk you through first of all, we're going to start with kind of the theory behind it, and then we're going to go into actual tactics of what you can do to validate your marketplace. So the goal of this short presentation is we're going to show you how to use online competitive intelligence tools to discover the money trail and validate your marketplace. Kind of a mouthful, but we'll break it down into easy chunks so you understand. The first thing you know about NearMe, which really attracted me to the NearMe platform, is that it was founded by successful tech entrepreneurs who had built successful businesses in the tech space. So a solid foundation in technology, they knew how to scale their businesses, and they really were focused on providing overwhelming value. So it's really a testament to the NearMe team, and I am super excited about joining it. But you guys should know that the technical foundations and the entrepreneurship skills that this team has is truly amazing. Pretty exciting stuff. So who am I? So just to give you a quick background, I didn't start in the technology world. As Adam said, I started a brick and mortar business, grew it from 1 to 5 stores, had 75 employees, and my primary ways for attracting new clients to my business was building a heavily SEO site, driving people to an email list, and then delivering offers via email, and then coupled with direct mail to drive people into the stores, and then once they were in the stores, get them on an email list and deliver those same offers via email. So I was a direct response online marketer in the pizza business, which is a really cool way of getting a foundation. After I got out of the pizza business, I focused 100% of my time on digital marketing and built several 7-figure lead and sales funnels for my clients. Anyways, just to give you a little bit of feedback on the market itself, right now we're seeing a pretty revolutionary time in the peer-to-peer marketplace space. Really, it's an economic, what's the market force going on? Well, right now, there's an economic revolution that's turning people into entrepreneurs. It's really amazing, especially in the retail side. On the B2B side, it's really taking small businesses and connecting them with big businesses in a way that we've never seen before. In terms of social changes, we have open, equal, and participatory platforms. And the reason why they're hot is that people are looking to humanize the online experience and do business with people that share the same values that they have. So this is very different than buying from the mindless big megacorps out there. People are really looking for a connection. They're looking for trust. They're looking for social proof, and peer-to-peer marketplaces provide that. In addition to that, technology has really changed in the way that now it's possible to have these peer-to-peer marketplaces. Technologies like Ruby on Rails and smartphones where you can actually shop intelligently from a mobile device have made all these marketplaces easier to deploy, easier to scale, and the user experience is just way better than at any time in our history. So what's the big idea? You know, for those of you that are interested in creating a marketplace, marketplace validation provides you with the data you need to make an informed decision as to whether you should launch or what niches to go in within a market. It really gives you, it's the only way that you can actually validate what you're going to do. The secret sauce. Well, at the most basic level, a marketplace is a website. I know it sounds simplified, but it really is. And so what you need to do is you can use web analytics and online software to validate your marketplace by looking at traffic, specifically both paid and organic traffic. And then you can also look at the keywords associated with that traffic. And then lastly, you can look at competitors in the marketplace to see what they're doing and what's successful for them. And that's what we're going to cover in detail over the next couple minutes. So the theory of what you need to know is that, you know, when you're looking at a marketplace from a theoretical standpoint, you want to either identify a large market or a rabid niche market that has a problem. And that the second thing is you want to have a market that's actively looking for a solution. And actively looking for a solution is that there's traffic. And then the third item is there's a market where they're actively spending. It could be dollars, it could be spending in terms of bartering. Whatever your peer-to-peer marketplace is, there is always a currency to each marketplace, whether it be dollars or some other transactional value, whether it's participation or other things. But you want to have, you know, you want to have a large market or a rabid market. They're looking for a solution, and there's dollars flowing. And typically, the way that I identify that there's dollars flowing is that I look at the traffic patterns, and we'll get into that when we dive into the details here. So for Pigment Niches, when you're going into them, you want to find a niche that has at least 5,000 monthly searches for the keywords that you're trying to optimize for. What does that mean? Well, let's say you're going into the pet sitting niche. You want to know that pet sitting has at least 5,000 searches a month for that term, which it does. We'll show you later. And the reason why is that depending on where you rank in terms of paid search and organic search, that will determine how many clicks you get within that amount. So, for example, this #1 ranked item for a specific keyword gets 50% of the clicks. The second person in that gets 25% of the clicks, and the third person gets about 10% of the clicks. And then it goes down from there. So you can imagine that search engine rankings and paid search rankings are critical for your marketplace, especially when you're starting out and trying to acquire new subscribers. If you already have subscribers, you're in a really lucky position, and congratulations. That's a really awesome position to be in, but not every marketplace has that luxury. If you have a local marketplace, let's say, for example, you were going to have a San Francisco-based one, you can actually do less searches because it's easier to rank for those relative searches. So if you were going to do pet sitting San Francisco, there's less competition, and so you need less traffic for each of those for both paid and organic search. So the next question is how? How do you validate your marketplace? How do you use competitive analytics tools, competitive data tools to find out what's happening? Well, in short, you follow the money trail. And the theory is if brands are spending money on online advertising, it means they're generating revenue from their ad spend. So what I do is I use paid, whenever I start a website or a marketplace, I follow the money trail. And we'll show you how to do that today. So here's the tools that I use when I follow the money trail. Now, Google AdWords has the Google Keyword tool within it, and it's a free tool. So all you have to do is sign up for a Google AdWords account, and you can use the Google Keyword tool. I find it's pretty good, but I don't think it's great. The tools that I love to use, and that I use personally, are SEMRush, which is a great tool, which I'll show you some screenshots from today, What Runs Where, and AdBeat. And any of these could give you enough data to get you what you need. The nice thing is that even though a lot of these have trials which you can sign up for and try out when you're starting your marketplace, and you can really get great data about the keywords for your niche and what your competitors are doing, both in terms of paid traffic and organic traffic. So we're going to go deep into an example. This example is going to be pet sitting. So we're going to look at both the organic and paid traffic and follow the money trail. So here's one thing you should know. Organic traffic is slower to build and free. But free is a caveat because it takes time to rank for certain keyword terms because you have to produce content. And content either takes time or it takes economic resources to build. You either have to spend time away from your business writing content, or you have to hire a content writer or a video content creator to develop that content for you. So you need to understand that organic traffic does have a cost. And anybody that tells you it doesn't really understand the time value of money, or excuse me, the value of time. Paid traffic, on the other hand, is faster and it's easier to get data on a minimally viable product, an MVP, but it does cost money. So you need to have a budget in mind when you go into getting paid traffic. And the easiest places to get paid traffic, in my opinion, to test your concept is either Google AdWords and or Facebook traffic. Those are the two that I would recommend for any marketplace that's just starting out. So here's a snapshot of SEMRush. The first thing I do when I start this process is I take the broad keyword and I put it into SEMRush. And what this shows me, there's a ton of data here, but what this shows me is that the dog space, or just the keyword dogs, has 550,000 unique searches per month. And the associated term dog has 450,000. The clicks for that are about 225. For some reason in the keyword summary it says 222, and down in the phrase match report it says 227. But you can see that if the clicks in that space, you can get a click for $2.25. That may seem expensive, but really cost per click is not the most important metric in your business. The most important metrics that you need to be measuring your marketplace by are customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value of a customer. That's what really determines whether you're going to make money in the long run. So that's the thing you have to do, is you divide the cost per click by your conversion rate to get your customer acquisition cost. And in this case, I like to refer to as CPA, cost per acquisition. On the flip side, you want to figure out what the lifetime values of a customer is. And basically from there, you can get a mini kind of profit and loss statement on a per customer basis. I hope that makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't, please write that down and we can go into that in detail in the Q&A. So the next step I do is I just do a good old Google search. Why? Well, I want to see who's spending money in my specific niche on Google. And from this example, when I put pet sitting, which is the niche we're going deep into today, I see that Rover has the first spot, Fetch Pet Care has the second, and the third is DogVacay. So we know that people are, these are the top 3 dogs in that space. There's a couple others on the right side. The Animal Nanny and Care.com and Thumbtack are in there as well. But the real players in this are the top 3, Rover, Fetch Pet Care, and DogVacay. So we're going to dive into what DogVacay is doing. The reason why I chose them is they're a San Francisco-based company, so I like to highlight what's going on in my backyard. So what I can see is that DogVacay is getting 12,500 unique. He's getting 12,500 visitors per month organically, and then another 2,200 paid visitors per month by buying ads. We can see that dog sitting is their primary keyword. That's driving 4,400 clicks to them, and then basically the city-specific terms are actually driving some significant traffic as well. So what they're doing is they're playing long-tail keywords. They're associating the keyword along with a city. So that's a way for you to, if you have a geolocated, if you have a marketplace that's based on a certain geography, you can actually build keywords into your content to optimize for those geo-targeted locations. In addition, if you go down, you can see that under the main competitors section, that's under the top keyword section, that it shows you what their organic competitors are. So Rover.com, Camp Bow Wow, Fetch Pet Care, and Barkley, and DogDaycare.com. So the nice thing is, from these reports, not only do you get their information, but you get their competitors' data. This is extremely valuable because what I would do is then I would rinse and repeat and go to each one of these guys that they're competing with and see what they're doing. Next, we're going to go into the paid traffic space. Again, I'm going fast. We're going to have a long, robust Q&A session, so please write down your questions. This is in this page, we're actually looking at what keywords they're buying in Google AdWords. So the first one is doggy daycare. They're the #1 position in doggy daycare according to SEMRush, and they're paying $3.15 a click. What that means is they're willing to pay that much for a click because obviously they're converting on that traffic. They know that if they can get someone to click, they have a high conversion rate into their marketplace, and once they're in, they know they can monetize them and at least break even, if not profit on that customer. So this is critical information. Secondly, underneath the keywords, we can see that Rover, Camp Bow Wow, the same players are also their competitors in paid search as well. And then the last thing, which I actually really love about this tool set as well, is it gives you their top Google ads. And so you can see what kind of language they're using to promote their business. So for them, having local doggy daycare, no kennels, no guilt, all fun, the cheaper cage-free alternative. Very much value-oriented headlines if you look through the four, and obviously cage-free is a big deal. So they've identified certain keywords that are critical to the psychology of their target market, and they're using those in their keywords. One thing that you always have to do with paid traffic is you have to test, and you want to come up with the right combination of headline and subheadline that really creates that emotional response to your ads. So I'm just going to recap at this point kind of what we did. I went over it very quickly, and I expect that we're going to have some questions. But the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the broad category, and you want to look at the macro market, which in this case, it's the dog market. Then you want to look at the niche level, which is pet sitting. Then after that, you want to look at top advertisers in that niche. So you want to look at the Google AdWords paid traffic. Then you want to look at you want under pet sitting, you want to review the top advertisers for that niche. Then you want to look at the organic. Then you want to go one level down and look at the organic search keywords for that for the competitors. And then you want to look at the paid search keywords for each of your competitors. So market level, then the keyword for your niche, then you want to go to your competitors, both for organic and paid. And what that'll do is that'll give you a wealth of information about traffic, keywords, paid traffic, and organic traffic. And the reason why, again, is you want to follow the money trail. If people are spending money on keywords and they're big, successful brands, you need to know that, because if they're spending money, that means that it's working. It means they're either breaking even or profiting on their customer acquisition for their marketplace. And if you don't have a marketplace competitor, but you have an e-commerce competitor, then you're e-commerce competitor. So another thing I want to emphasize is that you want to consider using paid traffic while you're building out your content factory. As I mentioned before, SEO traffic is great because it's trusted content, but it takes time to build SEO rankings up. In one HubSpot article that I read about a year ago, they estimated that it took about 92 blog articles in order to get your company to rank significantly for a broad category. So you can imagine that if you're blogging every day, which is uncommon for small businesses, that it's going to take you 3 months to get there. And that's only if you're doing it every day. Most businesses blog maybe once or twice a week. So if you're going to try to build your business using organic traffic, you have to basically create what I call the content factory. In the meantime, if you want to start growing your business and getting adopters into your marketplace in a much quicker fashion, then paid traffic can help you with that. And specifically, I recommend Google AdWords and Facebook traffic.
Well, I'm just going to direct people to use the questions panel right now, and that is viewable here in the GoToWebinar panel. So anybody who has some questions, just feel free to just paste them in to the box, and we'd love to hear from you right now. Just to go over and reiterate too, Kevin, on the point where you're an expert in a particular market and you already have access to sort of a proven supply demand. Say you're involved in a member-based organization, an association, you're a domain expert in your field, and it's so niche that there isn't a lot of keywords in Google to validate the market. What's your thoughts around that?
So that's a really good question. The way I would handle that is, if you have a captive audience and you're capturing leads organically or naturally because you have a captive audience, one way to increase your engagement is, number one, you still have to produce content, and you use email marketing to drive that content or the links to that content to your subscriber base. So that's the one thing, is you still need to be in the content space. Mm-hmm. And you need to make them aware of the various offers or opportunities to participate in the marketplace. So you still have to promote. It's just that you don't have the tedious job or the harder job of driving traffic and getting subscribers on the front end.
Gotcha.
Secondly, there is a way for you to engage with them outside of your marketplace in a way that will dramatically increase your revenue, and that would be through retargeting ads. So a retargeting ad is where you place a pixel. There's two ways you can do it. You can take your email list from your marketplace and you can upload it, and that will create a custom audience in Facebook, and that will allow you to serve ads to the people that it recognizes the email for in Facebook. Another one is you can place a pixel, which is an HTML or JavaScript piece of code, inside your marketplace, and then that tags the people in your marketplace, and then you can serve ads to them. So for example, if you find that you have a lot of subscribers but you want to increase the frequency of purchasing within your marketplace, maybe you do a retargeting ad where you offer free shipping or a discount, or you feature a new marketplace vendor in order to increase the buying activity within your marketplace. So that's a way where you can, email marketing and content is one way, and then secondly, I would really emphasize using retargeting ads to increase clicks and engagement and increase buyer frequency.
Great. Thanks. Good comprehensive reply. Now, we've got a couple of questions that have come through. I'll go in order of those right now, Kevin.
Great.
John has asked, were the charts that you showed out of Google Tools or SEM Rush? And maybe if you could flick back to your presentation screen to confirm on that.
Yep. So let me just go to here. So these are from SEMRush. I personally like to use SEMRush. I feel like it's a much easier tool in order to get comprehensive data. It is a paid tool, but I think it's worth the investment, and it's the kind of thing that if you didn't want to keep on it for a long period, during your research phase, you could go in, spend a couple days getting as much data as you can, and then you could cancel your subscription and go from there. But this is from SEMRush.
Great, thanks, Kevin. And just to note that we don't have any affiliations with these products. These are actual bona fide, validated tools that Kevin has been using, and we don't have any connection with them other than we like them and use them ourselves. So we don't have any business relationship in that respect. Another question has come up. Is NearMe providing both a CMS, content management system, for the content machine and also the digital marketing mechanism as a package? Love your question, Michael. The first question around CMS is yes. There are certain aspects within the NearMe platform which are already fully accessible via liquid markup. What that means is that you have access to the HTML as well as some conditional formatting around if this, then that. So liquid markup is actually our focus for content management. It gives you complete flexibility around the content. So there is also a blog, and very soon in the next 2 weeks we'll have our microblogging functionality, which within the marketplace will allow your users or participants within the marketplace to also have their own microblog. Again, that's a way of getting great curated content and then being able to surface that in your main blog from those articles which you deem to be really good, high quality content. Now, the other question around the marketing mechanism, that's something that we're evolving right now. We integrate with MailChimp, and we're looking to integrate with other email marketing packages. And also, we're looking at ways that other third-party providers, such as HubSpot, where in the same way that we allow the injection of the Google little tracking codes, you'll be able to also inject your own third-party digital marketing conversion tools. So tools like HubSpot and others will be able to be embedded. How far we go in the evolution of our digital marketing side, we'll see how that goes. It may be better that we just do more integration versus building. Another question's come up. Any thoughts about moving a traditional market to a peer-to-peer online market? I'm working in a traditional industry that has practiced inefficiently for over 100 years with the same laborious practices. I can find the players, but getting them to change their shopping habits is my challenge. Great point. I think there's so many industries that are getting shaken up. We're seeing this happen in the legal. We're seeing this happen in accounting. We're seeing this happen in a supply chain around large industrial manufacturing parts. So it is happening. I think the issue is that it could be a generational change that's required, John, and that means that those who are getting into the industry, maybe the children or the grandchildren of those that started those businesses, are going to be more inclined to be a disruptor. So I think now is the time to get involved. So yes is the answer. I think definitely traditional markets are moving to peer-to-peer, particularly private marketplaces where there is still that sense of you need to be in the club to be able to participate. And I think protectionism is a way that that's still able to provide a level of comfort to those who have been doing it. And we always do it this way. This is the way we do it. We can still do it within a private marketplace, and that could be the first step.
Well, Adam, let me actually jump in there because I think I have an example.
Great.
Of a market shift. So one of my clients prior to coming on with NearMe was a crane repair company. So they repair cranes in construction sites, industrial manufacturing plants, railroads. Pretty hardcore commercial applications. Most of their business historically was done via telephone. So people had to know that they were on they would look them up in the yellow pages or they had a business card, but it was not an online play at all. I built a lead gen funnel for them, which is specifically I created a heavily SEO'd site for them and then used retargeting ads to drive people back to it. and basically people would opt in for a best practices white paper, and then they would go through an email nurturing campaign. This was never done in this industry before. This was a brand new type of campaign. And what it did is it went from them getting 0 leads online, from them generating 5 to 6 new leads per week. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when each lead has an initial purchase price of $5,000, you can see how the numbers add up really quickly. So what you need to do is, my recommendation, John, for your campaign, was you need to get into the tools and see if there's an emerging trend of search traffic or paid traffic in your niche where people are starting to bite at the bit to go online. That'll give you an indication of their willingness to do it. If you don't see a lot, it may be a bigger fish to fry, and a potential way to get into that market would be to go more the association route and become the voice of the industry for that niche. So that's another way you could potentially cornerstone that marketplace. But you need to really start from the data at the beginning, and then let the data tell you where you should go.
Excellent. I love it, being the cornerstone and the thought leader in the industry. Also, just what's your thoughts as far as looking, and how can people look at momentum around keywords? As for some of the tools that you've pointed out, does it show time series data so we can see, well, maybe today I look at some of these keywords and there's only a handful of searches being made, say 1,000, but a week ago there was only 100, and a week before that there was only 5, and before that there was none. How can you see velocity and point that out? And we had a question as well from Mohammed around what was the 4th service recommendation. You mentioned Google tools, SEMRush, what runs where, and blank.
AdBeat?
AdBeat.
Yes.
ADBEAT.
Correct. But my personal tool of choice is SEMRush because it covers both organic and paid traffic. What runs where and AdBeat are more expensive tools, and I think for your guys' purpose, my personal recommendation would be to start with SEMRush, and you can always go up from there. What those other tools do better than what runs where and AdBeat do a better job is they go deeper into the display networks, so they do more banner ad details than SEMRush. But for what you guys are doing, I'm not sure that that's necessary unless you're consumer focused. If you're a very consumer focused marketplace, then those tools will be good as you expand your paid campaigns, or you're just right on the cusp of doing it. In terms of momentum, if you look at the bottom right of this chart, or excuse me, this page on DogVacay, you can see their traffic growing over time. This is going to be consistent across all, my guess is it's going to be consistent across all of the dog sitting advertisers out there. There were 3 of them that I identified on the Google search. You're going to see that. So yes, you are going to see velocity of keywords, and you will get that data. Another tool that you can use to really look at the velocity of your niche is Google Trends. So Google Trends, you can put in your niche information and it'll tell you how your keywords are trending. So that's a free tool that you can use. But again, I look at the top dogs in the niche that I'm going into, or the top keywords in the niche that I'm going into, and that gives me a really good indication of where that marketplace is going, and the related keywords.
Excellent. So Google Trends sounds like it could be good for the organic velocity that you might see within a bunch of keywords.
Yes.
And how deep, like some people talk about word stemming, and some words mean different things to other people, and of course then there's the multilingual aspect of where you might want to grow your marketplace, and understanding what words in Spanish or French, Italian, German might be the equivalent. I'm tongue-tied right now.
Right, so one of the cool features, so first of all, if you look at the top of this snapshot,
Great.
SEMRush will give you Google data for each of the respective countries.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a geography or languages that you're trying to identify keyword terms for, you can use the countries to identify those terms. So that's the beauty of the online space. There's tons of data, and you can look at it by country, and then based on the country searches, you can look at the keywords in the native language, and how they rank or how they perform in those native countries.
Excellent. More questions? Has anybody got a pressing question? We would love for you to answer that. So as we wrap up and finish this session, you can walk away knowing that one niggling question was answered. And please also make sure that you don't feel that there's no silly questions. So just take a moment now to ask any more questions through the questions panel. There was a question that's just come up here about Craigslist. Eric's asking.
Okay.
Have you ever used Craigslist? And I'm guessing that's a way of driving traffic, another tactic.
So I certainly have used Craigslist to drive traffic. I think it's a good traffic source. The big concern that I have with Craigslist is that there's a high occurrence of fraud, and there's no peer reviews. So one of the things that I think, Adam, that I'd love for you to talk about is the trust factor. But I can talk a little bit about what's required. So to be active on Craigslist, you need to have a consistent posting schedule, and you need to have unique content posted for each link. Otherwise, duplicate content gets voided out. It works really well for local services. I actually helped a local handyman with the lead gen strategy on that, where we drove links. We drove traffic from Craigslist to a website, and then people opted in and then got email series, and then they received a discount off their first service. So it certainly can work. It's not the one thing you have to be concerned about is the reputation of Craigslist is that it's definitely a lower end service. People are looking for deals, and there is a fair amount of fraud. So I love Craigslist for when I need to sell something, when I have an old couch or things like that. But it also, you have to be aware of the landscape. Adam, do you want to touch on the trust factor and how marketplaces trust is a huge part of it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. I agree too. I've had some great experiences on Craigslist, and I've had a couple of iffy ones relating to buying and selling, just to clarify. As far as trust, though, within a marketplace, there's implied trust within closed marketplaces where you need to be a member. Say you had a marketplace of accountants or lawyers, where within that vertical, within that niche, that private marketplace, there's a lot of implied trust where people don't want to get a bad reputation. There's nobody's anonymous because they may have to put up their bona fide credentials as a CPA or a member of the bar. So in those type of marketplaces that are very focused on a niche, you get that implied trust. Additionally, through ratings and reviews and comments, you can also surface a level of experience as a buyer or a seller, a renter or a guest or a host, that is also surfaceable to provide a level of trust and credibility for both the supplier and the guest. And we see that with things like Amazon now, we see it in Airbnb and other marketplaces. The only thing is that they can also be gamed. That is, you could go off to a service like Amazon Mechanical Turk and pay people to create fake accounts and give themselves really raving reviews, and that's happening in Amazon a lot as well. So ratings and reviews do serve a purpose, but can also be gamed. One of the things that we're looking at, well, not just looking at, but we've had built in the back end and hasn't yet been fully integrated, is using peer group analysis. And it's the algorithms that are actually used in fraud detection. And what it does is using people's social media accounts and linking those into their marketplace account. It allows peer groups to be created. And when you look at the interaction over time between people, a conversation via a text message, It could be phone calls, call data records in a telecommunications company. Those peer groups over time and that interaction that occurs, reciprocal relationships, can be grouped. And there's very distinct patterns in legitimate, trustworthy networks versus fraudulent networks. And credit card companies have been using that technology for a while now. So that's what we'll be employing, so that those who are working within a marketplace that's powered by NearMe will be able to access that sort of trust score. And I don't like using the word trust score, because who defines the trust score? It's not up to NearMe to say whether or not someone's trustworthy or not, and who trusts us to give that score. But it is up to us to be able to surface what we see as regular patterns for a trustworthy peer group. And so those that you're connected with and the interactions that they have can also add weight. And that's really useful for when somebody's coming on as a user for the first time within a marketplace. And just because it's their first time doesn't mean that they're not trustworthy. But because they don't have ratings and reviews, it puts them lower down in the pecking order, if you like, or trustworthiness. But what if they're connected to 3 or 4 other very trustworthy people, and looking at their social media context over time, we can see that they are actually somebody who, yes, they've joined the marketplace for the first time, but they're interacting with a lot of other very trustworthy people, and you can imply a level of trust there. A couple of broad brushstroke concepts that I've introduced in that, but yeah, trust is very important.
For sure. And I just know that it specifically, like in the Amazon marketplace right now, there's a ton of review fraud that's going on, and they're policing it only when it becomes a big cry out from users, but it's really not addressed on an active basis. So I personally know of vendors in there that have campaigns to manipulate reviews. So it happens, and you need to be aware of it.
I've just had a clarification point here, Kevin, from from Erik, who was asking about Craigslist. Can you glean returned data from Craigslist? If you want to just clarify actually that point, Erik, that would be great if you could just use the question panel just to spell out a little bit more clearly what you mean.
I actually think I know what he's talking about, but I'll take a stab at it. Here's what you can do. If you use Google Analytics and you build your links from Craigslist going into your marketplace using Google UTM variables, there's actually a site, and I can show you guys actually. I'll just do it.
And Matthew and Michael will be coming back to your questions momentarily as well.
So there's a site called Google URL Builder. So let's say your site, we'll just use NearMe as an example. If we want to create a tracking link from Craigslist into NearMe, we could do that by putting in the website. We could call the campaign source Craigslist. Campaign medium is, let's just call it CG ads. We don't need term or content. That's not a required field, but we'll call the campaign name Marketplace. Then the Google URL Builder will then build a link for you right here, which all of those variables can be read by Google Analytics or any third-party analytics tracking software, so that when you go into your reports, you can then see what traffic piece it's bringing it in for. If you have multiple ads inside the Craigslist marketplace, you could actually change the campaign name right here, this field, and it would tag the end of the Google URL Builder with that appropriate campaign, and all that data would populate within your Google Analytics reports. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for, but that's how you would get your traffic source. That's how you guarantee that your traffic source information makes it into your Google Analytics account.
That was really cool, Kevin, and no, it didn't answer the question. Erik, okay. It was really cool though.
Sorry.
I think I totally understand where Erik is coming from now, and the question is, based on the search results or the number of search results from a Craigslist output. And I guess you would use some sort of screen scraping tool to get this information. In the same way that you're looking at the number of keywords counted in Google, would the search results in Craigslist actually determine that there's a marketplace opportunity? And I'll let you answer after I have my little stab at it. I think it's a really good point, Erik, in that, okay, let's say desks near me, which is it's like Airbnb for office space. If you take a look for office space opportunities, renting or subletting, there is heaps in Craigslist. In fact, they've got whole categories assigned to it. So I think if you use the categories in Craigslist to define where there's marketplace opportunities, definitely that would work. Specific items inside the buy-sell marketplace, I was looking for some workout equipment, and you've got to you can be geographically specific. Maybe in some geos there is, maybe there isn't. But I do understand what you're saying, and I think, yeah, that's another great litmus test to see what might be available as a new marketplace opportunity. I know it's gone around that Airbnb did a lot of scraping from Craigslist to get some of their early inventory.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could certainly go into Craigslist. They have no obligation to release traffic data, so it's a manual process, and so you can go in and manually find out how many results it returns for a specific keyword. But I would certainly compare that to Google, because Google is going to give you a more global response. And secondly, we just don't know how much data. They're not obligated. I mean, Craigslist is its own marketplace. They have no obligation to release accurate data to anybody. So you can, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. I would certainly do third-party validation on any data that you pull from there.
Yeah, but if you're seeing a trend there, Erik, then that could be speaking volumes to the opportunity as well. And certainly for those that are using it to validate, office space for rent, and they're not getting very trustworthy people, it could be an opportunity for an office sharing marketplace. Matthew's asked, is there such a thing as a budget for AdWords, or is it going to be more test, and learn?
I think the more important question to answer is, well, let me start by saying my benchmark for testing a campaign on a specific traffic source is to do $100 a day for 7 days. That's what I do personally and what I recommend to my clients. That is so that I can get enough statistically relevant data in order to make informed decisions. So that's a $700 investment. And that's per traffic source. So if you're doing both Facebook and Google, that would be $1,400. But that is not a standard. That is what gives me statistically relevant data. The question that you need to be asking yourself is, what is my projected revenue per customer, and what is my projected customer acquisition cost? You won't know your projected customer acquisition cost until you run your data, but you won't know your actual customer acquisition cost until you run your test, but you should predict it. So for example, there's a lot of, a law firm, for example, is willing to spend roughly $100 a lead. And that's just a lead. That's not a customer. And here's the deal. Let's say they convert 1 out of every 10 leads into a customer. That means their customer acquisition cost is $1,000. The reason why that works for them is that the average law firm client is worth $3,000. So they'll trade $1 for $3 all day long. That's the game. So when you're buying traffic, it's what can you afford to trade and what will you get in return. So the main thing is that like for an e-commerce site, a customer acquisition cost of $30 to $50 would not be unreasonable. I hope that gives you enough information.
Thanks, Kevin. Got a couple more questions here as we roll up to the hour, and thanks everybody for being for participating. This is great. We've got a note from Michael. I have a group of dealers who are spread across the country who sell like products with protected geographic boundaries to avoid competitive overlap. Would setting up a single NearMe site for that group, whose job would be to forward leads by geography, and is that a feasible business model? Definitely. You could set up within NearMe. You can set up partners, so you could have the main marketplace, and then you can have subdomains or franchisees, if you like. So think of the main marketplace as the master franchise, and dealers or partners within that franchise as franchisees. And definitely we can talk to you about that in more detail. And yes, it's a feasible business model. There's lots of industries who have prime market areas where dealers work within their pond to deliver services or goods geographically. So we can talk more about that. Michael, feel free to definitely reach out, and I'll connect you with the right team member. So here's my email address.
And one of the things that I love about that, Adam, is that it gives you the opportunity to co-op your advertising spend. So instead of an individual region bearing the entire cost of the advertising spend, you can actually spread your cost among your dealers and really benefit from the participation of the group.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. In fact, we've had some small mum and pop shop retailers who wanted to get online, and individually they looked at the cost of an e-commerce solution, and to do what they needed it was going to be prohibitively expensive. And this is actually a story that's come through one of our channel partners. When they looked at the NearMe model where they could have a master franchise and franchisees, they were able to then pitch to not just that mum and pop shop, but 5 of them who were independent but geographically spread where they didn't have overlap. And they were actually able then to come together to put money into a project which allowed all of them to participate in a really high quality marketplace where they knew each one had a vested interest in the success, that the cost of development and implementation was reasonable for each of them, and they all benefited from a better solution, and also, as you said, that joint marketing, and they could all then get the flow of leads based on geography.
For sure.
What is the best way, this is a question from Jerome, what is the best way to monetize a marketplace? Is it fees, subscription, transactional? Advertising, I guess, is another option. There's whole different ways to approach it. It's a really good question, Jerome. Kevin, do you have anything off the top of your head that you'd like to respond on that, and I'll jump in after?
Well, I think it really depends on the problem or the service you're providing to both the participants and the marketplace participants. I mean, I think that you really have to get into the psychology of where the value is created. So to give you an example, let's just use Etsy as an example because it's an easy one. I mean, Etsy gives a marketplace to artists and craft builders, and those, these artists and craft builders would not have the ability or potentially the economic fortitude to build their own website and market and acquire customers. And so what it allows them to do is that at the end of the day, it's a place where consumers can connect with craft artists and craft builders and furniture builders, and so it's a connection engine, and it allows really talented people to do it. And so the way they monetize and Etsy is a percentage of the transaction. They're getting a piece of the pie. You can charge a fee for people to list in your marketplace, for vendors to list in your marketplace as well, but you have to weigh that against the adoption rate. So you have to look at that target market, and you have to say, hey, I think that the way I would start the question is, what are you providing? And once you understand the value that you're creating, then you can figure out where you can make money. But I think I would start with the customer in mind and the marketplace participant in mind.
Great response. I agree totally. What is the value you're providing? And if it's just simply a matchmaking service, then maybe you're able to provide enough value within that where you have great customer service and follow-up and communication tools and account management tools that would allow you to do a per transaction model. In other cases, a subscription model might be best because people just want to go where everything is. But to get started, definitely you're wanting to be adding value to everybody in the marketplace. And that could be through amazing articles, blog posts, white papers, how-tos, do-it-yourself. There's a whole bunch of things. But it's going to be, the question is, what's in it for me as a marketplace participant and as a subscriber or as somebody who wants to use the service? So what is,
right.
Are you meeting the what's in it for me that your customers are going to be willing to pay for?
Right. And I want to offer this, guys. We constantly talk to people who are interested in our software, who are looking to jump into the marketplace business, and we want you to know we're not just selling software. We're here as advocates for you. So at the end of this webinar, I'll give you my personal email address. You can contact me. Also, our contact form on our website, we answer those emails promptly. So if you want to jump on the phone and have a strategy session where we talk about your marketplace and go through it, we're here for you, and we would love to help you with that process.
Yeah, excellent. We're going to wrap it up on this last question that's come through from Kent. And the question is, going back to validating before building an MVP, minimum viable product, beyond looking at keywords and making guesses on customer acquisition costs, are there any other strategies, Kevin, to get empirical data?
Well, one of the things that you could do right at the beginning is you could put up what it's called the squeeze page and say coming soon, and see, you could run some paid traffic to a squeeze page and just basically create, before you ever build a website, you can say, let's say you were going to do the next dog sitting website. You could create a squeeze page where you collect the email address and say, hey, Dog Sitters Galore is coming to you in the first quarter of 2015. Sign up to get on the early release list. What you could do, the reason why you want to do that is you want to see the responsiveness to your offer. And then what you could do after that is maybe you just email them using an email autoresponder program, some dog care tips or some different things like that. But that would at least get some data and responsiveness to your lead process. Because ultimately, if you're driving consumers or, if you're driving, fresh people into a marketplace, you want to know what your customer acquisition cost. And typically in a private marketplace, you have to opt in. So that'll give you some data as to what your customer acquisition cost is. Obviously, you're not going to have data on what the revenue side of that equation is, but at least it would give you some early data on what it costs to create a subscriber for your marketplace.
Well, I think we are at the top of the hour. Thanks again, Kevin, for sharing your knowledge.